Because if they want to and they're not taught, they're going to do it wrong. All right? It's a crucial moment, and it comes at the moment that they have the need to beautify the sound with some vibrancy. Now, in the vernacular of violin technique, the expression is an arm vibrato or a wrist vibrato, right? Is that what you've heard? Violin vibrato is either arm or wrist. Well, I know of several violinists who have what is basically an arm vibrato, and they play very beautifully. One of them was the late Oscar Shumsky, who was a phenomenal violinist, and had pretty much a sort of a combination kind of vibrato. Mr. Francescatti was one who used the full arm for the vibrato. There is a substantial disadvantage to that. The disadvantage is that you have to press hard. Now, the expression wrist vibrato to me is sort of a misnomer because you're not vibrating your wrist, right? You're vibrating your fingers. Now, the goal of what kind of vibrato you want to hear, I think, has to be paramount in the mind of the teacher before you start to teach. The idea is that you do not want to change the pitch, you want to enhance the pitch. So rather than thinking of something of that nature, you're thinking more of vibrancy within the note, which really requires that the motion be rather small. And if that motion can be restricted to the fingertip, the possibility of continuing vibrato from note to note without interruptions, even for shifting, is much better. It also means that the integrity of our hand position will not be impaired. So intonation is not compromised by a change of hand position. So I start to teach the vibrato in the third position. I do that because it is possible in the third position to let the hand rest lightly against the body of the fiddle. And I like to use these little sliding exercises occasions, but generally I'm not doing that. So I give them an example. And my example are singers. And when I tell my students I want them to listen to arias sung by Jussi Björling, and they come back and say, but he doesn't have a vibrato. And I say, that's right, because the vibrancy is coming from inside the note. Now, for me, among the violinists whom I revere, the ideal vibrato is number 1, Fritz Kreisler, number 2, Jascha Heifetz. For Fritz Kreisler, and young man and I were talking about this, one of the hardest pieces in the whole violin repertoire is Caprice Viennoise. It is really difficult. And when you listen to Kreisler play that, and you hear the vibrancy of his playing of thirds, nobody ever played double stops like that. Mr. Heifetz does sometimes, but it's a uniquely beautiful, warm sound, and you are not aware of the vibrato. You are aware of the sound. So that's the end of the chapter on vibrato.